Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make rice on a stove. Why am I doing this? I have a rice cooker. I have a really nice rice cooker. But I do understand that there are a lot of people out there that don't have rice cookers in their house. You can get a rice cooker. I think I've seen rice cookers on Amazon or Walmart for as cheap as between $15 and $25, which is awesome in comparison, because in Korea I think you'd be hard pressed to find a rice cooker for less than $100. Most rice cookers here run between $250 and $600, and you can find fancier ones that are upwards of over $1,000. Now these rice cookers are awesome. They're great. They do a lot of things. You can make rice in them, obviously, but you can bake bread in this thing. You can use it as a pressure cooker. You can steam vegetables or make different types of dim sum and dumplings in this thing. But if you just want to make rice, I think a cheap rice cooker from Amazon or Walmart is perfect. It actually is. Now, if you don't want to buy a rice cooker, or you can't justify buying one, maybe you don't eat rice as much as I do, or maybe you can't afford a rice cooker, that is okay. You don't need a rice cooker to make rice. Rice cooker technology has been around for what, like 100 years? People have been making rice for thousands of years, right? I think the only advantage that a rice cooker gives you is you don't have to set the temperature, you don't really have to babysit it, and you don't have to turn it off when it's done. So if you can manage that, you can make rice on a stove. I just as I'm talking, I'm just thinking that this could probably be the most controversial video that I make, because there are so many people out there that have learned to make rice using different methods, and I'm pretty sure they're right? I mean, the method that I'm going to show you is literally different from the way my sister makes rice, and we learned it from the same person, our mom. And there's like complete sciences to how to make rice. But what I am trying to show you today is something that's no frills. It's really easy. It requires very little effort, and I'm not going to say it's impossible to mess up, but I'm going to try to make it so that it's very hard for you to mess it up. So let's get started. Now, I think it would be irresponsible if I didn't mention that today we are going to be cooking jasmine rice. There are a bunch of different rices out there, different types of different types of rice out there, and they have different water requirements and different cooking lengths. Jasmine is one of the easiest and quickest rices to make. Most Asian countries use jasmine rice as their staple rice. Thailand, obviously, there are a lot of brands out there of jasmine rice that are from Thailand. The Philippines uses jasmine rice. Korea, both of them, and different parts of China. Japan also uses jasmine rice, but they also have a different, I'm not sure what it's called, but I just know it as sushi rice. You can actually, if you went to probably an Asian market, you can probably find, it'll literally say sushi rice on it. And it's really similar to jasmine rice. It is, I think it's got more starch and it requires less water, and it's more sticky, but it's not as soft. as jasmine rice, but it's for a pleb like me, I mean, it's so close. If you would give it to me, I would be able to tell the difference. But if you went to a Chinese restaurant and you ordered steamed rice or steamed white rice, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be jasmine rice. So that's what we're making today. To start off, you are going to need a pot with a lid. You just need a pot that's going to be big enough to hold your rice. So when you cook your rice, it's going to double in size. So you want a pot big enough to be able to handle that amount of volume without bubbling over. It's better to have, and this is not a requirement, but it's better to have a lid that you can see through, so you can see when so you can see what's going on in there, and one that can allow steam to come out, so your pot doesn't bubble off, doesn't overboil with water. But yeah, so this is a 3-quart pot, and that's what I'm used to make the rice. For jasmine rice specifically, when it comes to measuring out how much rice you want to cook versus how much water you're going to need to cook it, a good rule of thumb is whatever you are using to measure your rice, whether it's going to be a measuring cup or a coffee mug or even a bowl or a glass, you're going to need 1 1/2 that amount of water. So for example, if I'm using 1 cup of rice, I'm going to need 1 1/2 of that same volume of water. Or if I use 1 coffee mug full of rice to the brim, I'm going to need 1 coffee mug plus 1/2 of water to make this rice. So I'm sure there are plenty brands out there that have their own methods, but that's the ratio I've used for many years on many different brands of jasmine rice. I'm pretty sure it's going to work. So before we start cooking this rice, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rinse this rice. Now, I know there are some rices that you don't need to rinse prior to, and nowadays in developed countries, rice is pretty clean. So we're just really getting the starch off. But there are some places that I have seen where, sometimes when they're storing this rice, they are literally storing this on the floor of a silo before they shovel it into sacks of rice and get it prepared. In the Philippines, if you went to the grocery store, you can literally see probably the cheaper, lower quality brands of rice. They've got bits of rock and bugs crawling through it. So I always rinse my rice. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but that's what I'm going to do. If anything, you should rinse your rice to get that extra starch off to give you a more fluffy, cleaner tasting rice. So here, you're going to always use cold water when you do this. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill it up. And as it's filling up, I'm going to agitate the rice and move it around. And as you can see, it's already it's cloudy. And what we want, it doesn't necessarily, we're just gonna move it around, and then we're just gonna pour it out. I'm just gonna cup my hands to catch any stray rice falling out. And we're gonna do this a few times. It doesn't need to, your water doesn't need to be fully clear. It just needs to be less cloudy, but you can do this however many times that you need. So I've rinsed this about 5 or 6 times now. Now it doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't need to be completely clear. It just needs to be less cloudy than it was, and it is. And so I think this is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and drain the rest of this. If you have a strainer, you can strain it that way. What you want to do is you want to get as much water out of this thing as possible. If you have too much water left over, it's going to add to your water content, and your measurement is going to be off, and you'll end up with mushy rice. So what I want to do is I want to get as much out as possible, and any rice that's left over, I'm just going to catch it. So now that our rice is rinsed, I'm going to add water to this thing. And since I used 2 cups of rice, I'm going to need 3 cups of water using the same container. All right, so our rice is ready to go. And so I'm gonna put this lid on here, and I'm gonna turn my fire up to medium heat. And this process is gonna take about 20 minutes. So in about 5 minutes, it should start to simmer. And once your rice starts simmering, you're gonna turn your heat down to low, and you're gonna cook it for 10 minutes. And then, after 10 minutes, you're going to turn your heat off and let it sit with the lid on it for 5 minutes. And then your rice will be done. So it's been about five minutes now. And as you see, my, well, I know it's kind of hard to see, but using cold water from a water dispenser, my rice is already starting to simmer, so I'm lowering my heat down to low, and I'm going to let it cook for 10 minutes. So if at any point you see your water is getting away from you, it's starting to bubble over, and you feel like this is out of control, you can lift your lid to release this pressure. I mean, don't just let it make a mess. I'm sure some purists in the comments are going to say, well, you should have used a bigger pot. But just in case you see this happen, don't freak out. Just relieve a little bit of that pressure. And as some of that water cooks away, you can put that... I'm going to do it just to show you that this is still going to work. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that lid. You'll see that pressure go down. And then you can just cover back up again. But if it's bubbling out, don't let it get away from you. So it's been 10 minutes, and it looks pretty good, guys. I didn't look into it. So at 10 minutes, we are going to shut our heat off, and then we're going to let it sit with the lid on. We're not going to touch it. We're just going to let it sit for another 5 minutes. So it's been 5 minutes, guys. I let it sit with the lid on, and I can kind of see it already. It looks pretty good. We're looking at it for the first time. And there it is. Here it is. There's the rice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move this around and let any excess moisture and steam escape. But this is ready, guys. So I wanted to go ahead and show you guys one more thing. Let's go ahead and plate this up. And I want to show you that this rice is cooked perfectly. It looks like it came from a Chinese restaurant. It's fluffy, it's sticky. You can pick it up with chopsticks, or spoon, and shovel it into your mouth. So It's really easy to do. You do not need a rice cooker to be able to cook rice. So there you have it, guys. I hope this helped you go out and make some rice.